The Nature of Predators, Book 2, Chapter 69. Memory transcript, subject, Taylor Trench, human colonist. Date, standardized human time, December 23rd, 2160. The stupid bird sat outside my prison cell, playing solitaire, a human game, from what I could see through the window. The bed and the smart television were lavish comforts compared to what a predator would have gotten under prey species watch. They'd stripped the clothes off the back of the first Terran prisoner they had obtained, and only given him unclean underwear from a pail. They beat him to a pulp for smiling that his Vendel friend was all right, despite having suitable accommodations. I hadn't stepped a wink between my racing and wondering about Gress was going through. One thought roared around my brain like a tempest. If my people had survived, was it possible my parents had pulled through? What would they think of me, and how could they defend why they sent me off alone? Alone. While they were happy and content on Earth, and forgot all about their little expedition, it should bring me relief to know our home planet was still out there, with everything that we'd done to preserve our culture. Yet, all I could think was how unrecognizable Terran society would be now. My life had been wasted. My suffering was meaningless. All of the good mornings brushing my teeth and hating the binocular eyes that stared back at my reflection, a waste. The mirror in the cell was still my enemy, showing that I was right to hide my face beneath the mask. It was the visage of a monster, after all. I'd forced Redeye to pull the trigger on the Civican ships, which incited this whole war. I encouraged the consortium to go after the Federation out of hatred, without thinking at all. My people could have been reunited with our home sooner. The only thing that mattered to you was protecting Gress, the one person who ever loved you, despite how little you deserved it. Instead, you just put him in danger by chasing revenge, because you're violent, angry, and short-sighted. Earth was lucky to be rid of you. While I had once thought the universe was denying my species any solace or joy, I now knew that it was me as an individual whose loss was misery. I hurtled a chair across the room, right as the door swung open. Carla hopped back, barely holding onto a tray she was balancing. The crocodile stared at me for a long moment, noticing the sweat soaking my hair and the veins popping on my reddened skin. How I wanted to wrap my hands around her throat and throttle her, despite the fact that I wasn't the least bit hungry. My mouth watered as I smelled the greasy bacon and saw pancakes steeped in maple syrup. The wealth of food they took for granted back on Earth, available on every street corner. I hoped the bird wasn't bringing me tofurkey crap. That would be a tease after how long it had been since I'd had a nice home-cooked breakfast. I lived on granola and meal squares. I guess the way to a predator's heart is through food, I grunted, wolfing down a bacon strip. The salty flavor was so incredible, I almost sank to my knees with a satisfied shudder. I wonder what restaurants are like on Earth now, with those frail herbivore sensibilities. I don't remember what it was like then, and I've got even less clue how it is today. Not like a bird would know. The crocodile squawked in protest. I live on Earth. What? For boot camp? You disgraced the UN logo. They shouldn't let you wear. I lived on Earth for over 2 decades, and joining the Peacekeepers 13 years ago. I'm a British citizen. I snorted with derision, a wicked smile crossing my lips. That's freaking great. You moved right on into my planet while I was forced to leave at 9 years old. What were you doing at the time of the battle? Playing Polly Cracker? No, I was part of the extermination fleet, Taylor. That's why I ended up on Earth. The fuck did you just say? The fork and knife clattered out of my hand, as I no longer cared whether the pancake would grow soggy. How dare you come in here, you worthless, disrespectful! You stole everything, slaughtering us all like vermin, and you think that you could ever make nice with— I was 8 years old. My parents stuck me in the extermination fleet. I have nightmares about what those crocodile did, and what I did. I just pressed the buttons they told me to, which resulted in so many stupid fecking deaths. I was younger than you were leaving Earth, when they had me dropping bombs and predators. You dropped fecking bombs yourself? My fist clenched tighter, as a tension headache formed a band around my skull. This thing helped genocide my species, proving the apple didn't fall far from the tree. 8 years old and already a murderer. The crocodile sent literal kids on a field trip to wipe us out. And your whole little beef jerky stunt, chomping on the meat, is trying to get proved what? That you're a predator yourself now? We ourselves were omnivores just like you. The Federation, in their infinite wisdom, cured us. The guilt I feel, now that I understand my part in Terran suffering, That's why I'm a peacekeeper. Maybe I'll make up for it, but be better than those feckwits. Maybe I'll die, like I should have for what I've done."
"Then you agree that you are unworthy of breathing Earth or any planet's oxygen?"
"I'm unworthy of your species' kindness and compassion. I won't resist if you think I deserve execution here and now, but the idea was to give my life for a cause, in the service of humanity, to save a few lives for all I've taken. There's no good deed that can eclipse what I've done, yet I must try. Let me do something worthwhile, for you and for Tennis."
I scowled at the bird, feeling a coldness in my heart 1,000 times deeper than what I'd held against the Krev. This was the face of the people responsible for everything wrong with my life. My fingers curled around the knife, despite knowing it was a dull blade. It was the nearest cutting instrument in reach. Kala, being an extermination fleet, would have been like if my people sent a 9-year-old me to defend Earth, which was a laughable prospect. An elementary school child in the military was beneath even us predators' standards. It was bizarre to think that was acceptable to them, but I knew I would have questioned it if my parents told me to drop bombs on a planet. Also, I didn't really care to learn that the Federation cured the crocodile, since they had been a monstrous species to slaughter us without mercy. What did slap me in the face was how the blue-feathered murderess spoke, trying to atone for bloodshed she caused, with guilt that could never be undone. I related to that rationale. It was the same reason I joined the military, to serve humanity in the wake of the drilling accident I incited. That crushing sense of responsibility had never truly left me. However, my volatility made me a liability as a soldier, which is why I'd been forced to realize there was other ways to aid my species. Being a better person meant reflecting on the flaws that had landed me in the spot in the first place. The Federation were the original villains. If I set my emotions aside, they dumbed down the other species on purpose. The Exterminator's Kill All Predator theme song started and ended with them. If there was peace with his ugly birds, I wasn't going to ruin it again. Assuming this crocodile is truly capable of feeling guilt, and isn't mimicking my own expression of that from reading my transcripts, I might be able to get a message through to Gress. He's all I have. This isn't his first time getting captured by humans, away from his home and daughter. But these ones have a lot more power. He must be frightened, as much as a Krev is capable of fearing a furless primate. I turned the knife to saw off a piece of the pancake, popping it into my mouth with the other utensil. "I'd like to see your fecking transcripts, whatever grand mentality went through your killers' heads. That ought to be something."
"I have nothing to hide. If it'll make you feel better, I'll pick out enough for you to get the gist of where I've been," Carla sighed. "How are the pancakes? I made the type that your home country, not the thin sort my human papa, would make unfold into triangles. I know you Yanks prefer artery-clogging addition."
"Do I look like I've been eating any processed foods?" I protested through a full mouth.
"I saw a bag of Oba treats in the lounge, and no Oba."
"That's berries and sugar. It's not that processed, and that was a recent addition to my diet. It reminds me of something I faintly remember from Earth. Riding in a shopping cart with Mom through the bakery section of the grocery store, and sometimes she'd let me pick out a cookie." My eyes watered, remembering the faint memories of a childhood I'd had. I wouldn't know my family if I saw them. They might as well be strangers. I remembered the fecking pastries better than my mom's face. I liked the ones with the shitty icing. I remember what could have been, if not for aliens. If I hadn't been sent away, banished, now the best years of my life are fecking gone, never to return.
Carla nudged me, noticing that I was pushing the food around my plate. "If I can be candid, be grateful that you have those best years. Parents who loved you, and gave half a flying feck about what happened to you. Not everyone does. Some people never had a happy childhood. I barely remember how my real dad looked, but instead of cookies, I remember yelling, being locked in closets, made your tennis cabin look roomy."
"Roomy? Feck you. It wasn't a 5-star resort. My entire living quarters were smaller than this fecking cell. You don't know shit about what I went through."
"I wish I didn't know. My living quarters were smaller than my prison cell too, and my cage had literal bars. Believe me, that I know what it's like to live in darkness, because electricity is seen as a waste for you, to hide anything that you enjoy for fear of reprimand at best, and that sliver of happiness is destruction at worst. I even know what it is to have done something reprehensible, which cannot be undone or taken back, for a cause so utterly pointless. Some people know only that reality, including the very settlers born in Tennis. Some people never knew there was anything better."
"Some people never, crap. I am..." Didn't think of it that way. It can always be worse, Taylor. I think that might be my life motto. I've even wrote a song with those 5 words as the title.
Sounds like a cheery-ass tune. Real crowd pleaser. We should make it the Tennis National Anthem.
Carla trolled in bitter amusement, as if you'd pick a song written by a crocodile to represent you. A crocodile that bombed Earth to boot.
It stars me to hear that any bombs fell on my beloved homeworld. At least you didn't fecking succeed in killing us off. At least neither of us succeeded, for that matter. We got our asses handed to us at Nishtal in Tulsk. I'm sure you'll have no problems at Offa.
The crocodile winced, her head snapping back. About Offa. Well, I think you have the right to know what's going on in the galaxy. The Orcs are in a faction called, and I shit you not, the Federation remnants, started shooting each other instead of the Consortium drones. The planet was lost, and your forces are still out there, which is why we need you to help talk them down. Despair punched me in the gut. The war I'd set in motion had devastating consequences after all. How many had we murdered? What the feck did Carla mean by Federation remnants? When they'd all told me the organization was destroyed. Perhaps having lost an entire world would render peace impossible between the KC and the SC. Regardless of how much progress the Earth humans claimed to have made with their herbivore allies, these were the same prey that had insisted that we inevitably slaughter them all. This would slander my entire species, and the United Nations for creating our group. The terrible wars that threatened us all might never end. We'd have to live in fear for as long as our kind existed. Even so, learning the scale of the innocent lives lost, much like how Carla had rained antimatter down on Earth, was the most crippling of all. The Kolshians were already defeated. Of course, we knew they're responsible for distorting the entire array of Federation species, but that's just more blood on my hands. I'm a monster. I deserve to die every bit as much as Carla. The Orcs and the Federation fighting had nothing to do with you. That was their old hatred, and it would have blown up somewhere else sometime, the crocodile offered, as tears flowed down my cheeks. We read your transcripts. You were eager for revenge on Earth. Yet even so, you neither made nor had any say in the decapitation strike plan. It's a crappy situation, sure, but the SC has forgiven worse. We can stop this from happening anywhere else, okay? If the KC want to be friends, I'm sure humans will oblige, especially since the Krev were protecting you.
I gritted my teeth. They were protecting themselves too, but also for nothing. What fecking reason is there to hope that things will get better? What? That it could always be worse?
It could be worse. If I told you a few days ago to pick between having Alpha bombed or Earth bombed, it would have been no-brainer. Your home is here. There are still plenty of possibilities ahead of us to restore order. It's only when a baby chick falls from the nest that they realize that they need to fly, Taylor. We've hit the ground, the absolute floor. There's an entire sky overhead, and we're in a place to make the reclamation happen.
I gestured to the room around me. From a prison cell?
You won't stay in prison for long. Neither you nor Gress will. If they charged you, they would have had to charge every Ark settler and Krev infantryman, which they won't want.
How do you know that, when we've bungled every improvement the UN have made through their actions?
The UN wants reconciliation, and they put out an announcement on Earth about reuniting loved ones. We made contact with Tellus, and they're aware that humanity is alive now. Perhaps it might help you feel less alone to recall that you're going through this alongside all of your fellow colonists.
They answered. Captain Sylvia must have put you in touch with them. I knitted my eyebrows together, recalling a panicked Charisse passing out pamphlets about the KC's defeat. She'd wanted us to board a new Ark. What? How are my people reacting?
Mayor Hathaway offered an unconditional surrender to any Tennis military forces, and we've established diplomatic channels. I described the few blokes we've talked to as shell-shocked, inquisitive about Earth and loved ones. I don't know how the common people have reacted, though they promised they'd make an announcement soon.
That should go over without any hiccups, and yes, I'm being sarcastic. It all goes back to that grand herd. The Sifkich just came to reclaim the world the Federation stole. We know that. Still, after laboring to be allowed to stay on Tellus, it's really all pointless if humans leave. That's being our home for 23 years. Like you said, it's the only world some of our settlers have ever known.
That's exactly where my idea for how you could help comes in, Carla chirped. You were the liaison of Tellus to the KC. Why not be the liaison of Tellus to us? You're already cozy with the consortium parties, enough to help humanity establish proper diplomatic relations. You could also help put a better foot forward with the SC. plead the Ark colonist's case and make nice with the aggrieved parties, starting with the certificates.
Don't be ridiculous. You know I'm not a diplomat.
Is anyone in your colony?
No. But if you read my transcripts, you know I just kissed up to the KC. I don't want to be the person that capitulates to every demand for Tillis' sake.
Then don't be that person. You know what the Ark colonists want. You know what it'll take to get peace. What better way is there to leave your vengeful past behind than to suggest yourself as someone that can mend those fences? I swallowed.
A quiet, happy life with Gress was what I wanted. Not bodying up to the same aliens that hated us then, and now have actual reason to do so.
As long as Tellus has enemies, you won't have a quiet, happy life. You have a rare opportunity to put an end to a debacle you were a part of. So think on it. The choice should be simple. The crow-cottle collected the dirty dishes as I chewed on the last of the breakfast and considered what she'd said. My hope, for the longest time, had been to serve humanity's interests, and securing peace with their current allies would be an unequivocal way to do that. I knew that I was a failed diplomat, only schooled in appeasement and prone to hot-headed outbursts ever since the drilling accident. However, the fact remained that I was a prisoner of war en route to Earth, who played a part in prolonging this tragic misunderstanding. The best way to protect Gress and attempt to prevent the consortium from facing steep consequences for aiding us would be to try and smooth feathers. I wasn't sure that I was capable of such a thing, but at least it was finally a cause worth caring about. As the only representation the Ark settlers would have on the Orion Arm, it fell on me to earn the forgiveness of aliens that I'd very much wanted dead. End of chapter.
I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.